Well, the sector that we are talking about has been through a lot, not just during the lockdown, but before it. Automobile has seen not only job losses and employment issues, and of course, down of demand and sales, but it's seen much more than that in terms of lacking support from the government yet. Well, we are talking about the sector that's yet resumed partially, but still needs to come back to life. And the question is that when will the green shoots come back to the sector? We're joined by Mr. Nikunj Sanghi. Thank you, sir, for joining us. He's the president of Automotive Skill Development Council. Thank you, sir, for your time. My first and foremost question to you, that the sector is going through a lot. Lockdown 3.0 has brought partial resumption of activities in the sector. Many factories, after initial apprehension, have resumed back. When do we see normalcy coming? Is it too early to even talk about it?
So I think to answer this question, one, you need to understand the automobile ecosystem. So we have an entire ecosystem which starts with component manufacturing to vehicle manufacturers and finally dealerships which look after sales and service. And for this ecosystem to function, unless this entire ecosystem starts functioning in unison, there is no way normalcy will be returned. So I'm seen reports of some manufacturers having opened operations. I've also seen reports of a lot of manufacturers saying that so many number of dealerships have opened. And frankly speaking, I myself am a dealer. I am a dealer in Alwar, Rajasthan for Mahindras and Hero. So we also started, we opened our dealerships on Tuesday. But is opening of dealerships sufficient? Obviously not, because if you would remember, Dr. Vikram Kirloskar talked about it, and he said that we need to gauge demand. There is already inventory lying at dealerships. So first, that inventory needs to get cleared. Two, we need to gauge demand on how much to produce and when to produce. And how do we gauge demand if dealerships have now not opened at all?
Right.
Now, there is the zoning system of green, orange, and with different kind of restriction in each zone. But the challenge doesn't end there. The challenge is that, one, people need to travel between zones. So which means if the dealership is in the green zone, but some of its employees are in red zone, will the employees be able to come and join? No, they'll not be able to come and join. So there are red zones where dealerships have been partially allowed to open with 33% staff. But customers cannot travel to the red zone because free movement in red zone is not allowed. So even if I am in a red zone and I have opened my dealership, but my customers can't come to my dealership, is it any point opening the dealership? Because then what I'm really doing is I'm in fact increasing my costs with no revenue happening at all. So this zoning will not work, and until the entire ecosystem starts operating. So manufacturers say that we cannot produce a 99.9% car. We need to produce a 100% car or a 100% two-wheeler.
Right.
So if a Mahindra Scorpio is totally assembled, but it doesn't have a door handle, can it be dispatched? It cannot be dispatched. So if there is one component manufacturer in one particular red zone, which is also the containment zone, and he's not allowed to open, and he cannot dispatch the component, which is the vehicle cannot be manufactured 100%. And unless it is manufactured 100%, it cannot be dispatched to the dealership 100%. And obviously a dealer cannot sell a 99.9% vehicle. He'll have to sell a 100% vehicle. So I think what we are telling the government and what we have in fact appealed, and I think that we have three associations which represent us. So we have a component manufacturers association, which is called ECMA, and we have an automobile manufacturers association, which is called SAM, and we have a dealer association, which is called FADA. So I think all the presidents got together and they have sent an appeal to the government that please allow us to open in unison. And as you might be knowing that auto sector contributes almost 50% to the manufacturing GDP. and anywhere from 7 to 9% of the total GDP of the country. So when auto sector gets impacted, it's not just the auto sector, it's the economy which gets impacted. So, and we also know that we'll need to live with this coronavirus. Lockdown or no lockdown, the coronavirus is here to stay till we get a vaccine. So we'll need to learn to live with this corona and not fight with this corona. So I think we'll need to evolve systems, processes where we minimize health risks to our employees, to our customers, to the citizens of this country. But at the same time, the wheels of the economy have to move, because otherwise we already staring at job losses, we are staring at income losses, we are staring at businesses getting closed.
You mentioned me that you're also into dealership. Tell me, has the consumer sentiment changed? Have people who've already booked orders, have they taken back their orders?
So I think, Karishma, both things are happening. There are two ways of looking at it. So I had bookings of BS6 vehicles pre-lockdown, and which were to be delivered. I think some of the customers have already come back to us and have said that, sorry, we don't want the vehicle. And we'd like the refund of our booking amount. So there are customers like that. There are some customers who have gone ahead and come back and taken delivery of the vehicles which were booked. But the number of new inquiries which are coming in, the number of new inquiries for vehicles which are coming in has drastically gone down. But we still see a silver lining in this entire thing because of this entire thing about social distancing, about the fact that everybody is scared. I think shared mobility, which was really catching on, I think will for some time definitely take a backseat. Similarly, public transport. So metros, you know how they are crowded. And look at the suburban trains in Bombay. I mean, forget social distancing, there's body-to-body contact of 100% passengers who are traveling in that metro. So obviously those options will either not be available, or if they are available, then everybody will need to get infected to use those systems. So because of this scare and because of the social distancing norms, I think there will be some demand for personal transport. So if I can afford a two-wheeler, I'll afford a two-wheeler. If I can afford a small personal car, I'll afford a personal car, because that will become my safety and my health will become important, and not just my family's safety and health will get impacted. So I think somewhere we are seeing some kind of a demand coming for entry-level two-wheelers, entry-level cars, because personal transport will definitely be important in the corona days.
Right. Post lockdown or post things start to come to the normalcy level, can a consumer expect a major discount if he is going to buy a car?
Logically speaking, yes. But will that happen or not happen? I think we'll have to wait and see. And why, I'll tell you why I'm saying so is because, automobile business, when it comes to retail, operates on a very thin margin, very, very thin margin. And even if as a dealer, I'm willing to give up my entire margin, the amount that I'll give up is going to be too small for you to get initiated into a purchase.
Right.
So if we are looking at handsome discounts which will trigger demand, it will only happen when the dealer and the manufacturer come together, and the manufacturer is the one who will need to offer these hefty discounts.
Right.
And I think most manufacturers are trying to play a safe game and trying to wait and see that when 100% restrictions do get removed and this lockdown 3.0 does get over, it does get over on the 17th May, then how many customers come back? What is the kind of demand? What is the category of cars they are looking at? What is the category of two-wheelers that they're looking at? And should they be giving discounts? Because 2 months of zero revenue, zero retail has obviously pushed back the entire ecosystem from component manufacturers to dealerships in a position where they are they can ill afford giving too much money.
Right.
They need to pay their employees. They have infrastructures to look after. So I think we will need to wait and see what really happens. But yes, it's definitely a problem.
Right. So, stimulus package we are and for every sector currently. If you could tell me what are the 2 or 3 things that probably if the government does, if the ministry intervenes, probably there could be a green shoot seen in the sector, or the sector could be coming back to a normal zone. The government.
So I think as a dealer association, we have made 4 specific requests to the Prime Minister's office and through him to the task force which has been constituted to look at the industry expectations from the government. I think the first is to make vehicles more affordable, to have a temporary reduction on GST. Now, you know that GST rates on automobiles are the highest, or what they call the sin product. So it starts with 28%. And if you add cess to that, it goes up to as high as 50%. And you also know we have just transitioned from BS4 to BS6. And it's not just that transition, we have transitioned into a lot of safety norms which have progressively come in force in the last 1 year. So if you add that all up, the cost of acquiring a new vehicle has gone up. Then there is insurance cost. So a year back, it was also mandated that you need to insure your vehicle for at least a period of 3 years and at least a period of 5 years if it is a two-wheeler, at least for third party. So that has again increased cost for the consumer. And finally, since now states have very limited sources of revenue, and road tax is one of the sources of revenue they look at, I think most states are resorting to increase in road tax rates.
Right.
So I think the cost of acquisition of cars or automobiles, I would say, why just cars, has gone up drastically in the last 2 years. Therefore, we are telling the government that, yes, we can understand your revenue constraints, but to kick off this auto industry, which is the backbone of the economy, can you temporarily, for a period of 12 months or 18 months, look at a GST reduction to make cars more? So that's one request that we have made to the government. The second request, of course, is the scrappage policy, which has been waiting for almost 2 years. So there are these polluting cars which are not even BS4. So there is non-BS, then there's BS1, BS2, BS3, and which are the ones which contribute probably the most to the pollution levels.
Right.
But the way India is, and because of affordability is definitely a concern, a lot of those customers, if offered an incentive, would probably want to change their vehicles and take the safe vehicles, the vehicles which are less polluting, which are the BS6 vehicles. But they need some kind of an incentive. So we have asked the government that scrappage policy, which has been waiting for some time, should come in, and should come in with reasonably attractive financial incentives to the customer to scrap the old vehicles and buy the new vehicles. So that will be another trigger for demand. The third thing that we are requesting the government is that dealerships today are the biggest employers of organized labor. So we estimate that we directly employ about 25 million people across the country and employ them, and most of them in their places of residence. So we don't displace them. So if I have a dealership in Alwar, then 100% of my staff belongs to Alwar. They have not migrated from XYZ state to come and work here.
Right.
So we employ them where they are resident. So we don't displace those people. And we not only not displace them, we also train them, because these are the people who have, so there is no special training that they've taken to work in an automobile dealership. So we train them and make them employable for their entire lives. That becomes a career path for them. So if we employ such a large sector of people, and if we are contributing so much to the economy, dealerships are not defined as MSMEs. And because they are not defined as MSMEs, a lot of benefits which the government normally gives to MSME to promote MSME do not come to dealerships. So that's a third request, that dealerships, and there was a time when dealerships were in MSMEs. There was some 2017 notification which took them out of it, that they should be recognized as MSMEs because we are very, very big employers. And some of the benefits which come to MSMEs will also come to us. And I think the final fourth recommendation that we have talked about is an accelerated depreciation benefit, which was announced a few months back by the finance minister. So we have said that that accelerated depreciation benefit should continue for at least another year. And in addition to it, it should also be available to individuals like you and me.
Right.
Because, so Abhi, that depreciation is available only to businesses. So if it is available to individuals like you and me, then it will have an impact on my tax liability. And I could then consider buying a two-wheeler or a car for personal mobility, and it will make my acquisition a little more attractive than what it is today. So these are four specific requests that we have made to the government. I think the other industry requests which were to improve liquidity, which I think RBI with its so many announcements has done something, but I think that has to do more with the risk aversion of banks and NBFCs. In spite of liquidity being available, whatever you read is that the money continues to be parked with RBI and it is not getting disbursed because bankers are scared that they will not get back the money that they now loan to people. So I think the government will have to look into that too, how to make banks and financial institutions less risk averse. And one way of probably doing it is to put auto loans into the priority sector, because once it gets allocated to the priority sector, then they have to meet their priority sector targets. And to priority sector lending is a little more easier, at an easier term than a normal lending. So I think that's another way of triggering off the auto sector.
Right. Keeping in mind that job losses have already probably occurred and only 20% of the industry is working, like manufacturing units or dealership units that have opened. So tell me that due to lockdown, a lot of factory workers, a lot of laborers might have migrated back to their places. So how is the manpower probably being held across firms and across factories?
So I think if you would have heard so I think this is mostly related to manufacturing. This issue is mostly related to manufacturing. And if you have heard the industry leaders on this, I think all of them have said that even after the normalcy returns, to get into 100% production is going to be a challenge, because to get back the migrant labor is not going to be easy. One, they are scared and they have suffered in this lockdown, and their families feel insecure. Will they not come back? And some people are definitely trying, that people who have not gone as yet, to somehow give them the kind of security and comfort that they are looking for, but to continue to stay with them. Skilled labor who are already working and who are migrant in nature is a challenge.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much. That was important information for us to take in. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Karishma. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.